Awesome. Well, obviously today's Mother's Day, and I'm thankful for mothers. I wouldn't have been here without one. I'm very thankful for my mother. My mother almost died on us last year. In fact, 3 times we were called to the hospital. The doctor said she won't live through the night. The last time we had an appointment to get a plot at the cemetery, and we were picking out caskets, and Kathy was on the phone while we were driving down with the mortuary, and my sister called back and said, something miraculously happened and Mom's gonna recover. So my mom decided to stay with us, on the planet, and she's actually well, she's home, recovered from cancer, just took another test about 2 weeks ago, totally cancer-free, and so very, very glad to get my mother back in good health. So, but yesterday, I was actually preparing for the day. I set aside a few hours just to prepare for this day because I really wanted to have a Mother's Day message. And my son-in-law, who pastors the church Bill and Benny left, we all left in Weaverville, he said, hey, I've got a panel of moms coming up and they're going to share. And I thought, I ought to have Kathy come up and share with me and just team teach. So we haven't done this a lot together, mostly because Kathy's been a chicken. But anyway, I don't want to say that. For years and years, I'd say, well, you want to share tonight? No. Why don't you teach her? No. And now, all the time, people are like, the students are always like, when's Kathy going to preach? So she's preaching through me. It's just a male's voice. So I thought it'd just be great to hear from Kathy, and we're kind of team teach, and we did it in first service and thought it was really beautiful. So we're just going to start right now, what are some of the most important things you've learned about motherhood?
Well, this morning when I was laying in bed, we'd actually talked about some of the things we're going to talk about today. And I was laying in bed thinking, one of the main things for moms to know
We're like cats.
is that you need a husband to fix you. Thank you,
Not
honey.
the way that sounded, sorry. Keep talking. You're
Honey,
doing
this
great.
one's being recorded.
Yes, awesome. Okay. Very good. Go ahead, babies.
Thank you. Now you can see why we don't do much of this. Actually, he's notorious for that 5:30 a.m. flight out of Reading. And then he'll whip out his phone and he'll say, smile, honey, we're going to do a video at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. That's why we don't do much of this. Anyway, I was thinking this morning about just moms and young moms, and sometimes we get wrapped up in everything that's going on throughout our day, and we feel like we're never measuring up to where we should be. And as we tend to listen to the voice of the enemy that says, you should have done this, or you should have spent more time with your kids, or you were being selfish today, you really should have whatever. And I just want to let you guys know, let you gals know that you are doing a good job.
Come on.
You are doing a good job.
Don't listen to the voice of the devil. Listen to the voice of mama.
That's right. You're doing a good job. And if there's times where we can say, I could have done that better. And that's fine if that's a place where you're at. But if you know that you've given it your all, you are doing your best. And so I just want to shut down the voice of the enemy that will try to come to you every day saying, you are not good enough. Because that's what the enemy tries to do. He tries to come and steal, kill, and destroy everything that's happening inside your life as a mom. And it doesn't matter if you're raising children at this age in life from a little baby or if they're teenagers or beyond. We're actually raising world changers. We're raising world changers. And God has given us as moms such an important job. And I realize that there's moms that are stay-at-home moms, and there's moms that are working also, depending upon what their situation is and what God's called each one of you to. But no matter where you are in that stage of life, you are raising world changers. And it's such an awesome privilege to be able to say that as a mom, you are making a difference. You're making a difference.
That's a good word. So speaking of making a difference, see how I flowed with you? What's one thing that you learned when our kids were growing up? What's some of the things you've learned that actually you'd like to just repeat, and maybe some new moms here or some moms that are struggling here? What have you learned that really could help them?
I think one of the things that we always tried to do in our home was make things fun for the kids. We tried to make our home a place where all the kids would want to come to. And I haven't met one kid that didn't like to eat. And so...
Or husband.
And, cooking is one of my passions. And so I always made sure that there was plenty of food in the house. It didn't matter if the kids were really little or if they were really big and coming home from games or proms or whatever. They'd bring all their friends over and they would just raid my refrigerator. They would raid my cupboards. In fact, they knew my cupboards better than I did. I think every day that the kids were home growing up, I baked something. And whatever I baked, it was completely gone by the evening. And so I told my girls, I said, we need to do something. We need to hide this food because it's just devoured. It's going too fast.
You might 4 dozen cookies and by after the evening, they're gone.
They're gone. They're just totally gone. So we started hiding.
The kids were piranhas.
We started hiding things in the closets. And then I got the idea, you know what? We should just freeze it because then if it's hard, they won't eat it. Then they discovered that, oh, wow, we like frozen cookies way better than day-old cookies. So, just having a fun place for the kids to come and to hang out.
So now we all like
Chris.
Frozen cookies. Like she'll bake fresh but cookies. We're like, put those in the freezer, we'll eat them that way. From ditching the cookies all those years.
Yeah.
So we always want our home to be the place kids want to go. So Kathy got an idea one year that we should buy a pool. One of those, doughboy pools. We didn't have any money. And she's like, oh, the kids will use it all the time. They used it they were like in it like 4 times in like 8 years until it finally got a hole in it. And yeah, that didn't work too well. But our house was a place. How many? What are you looking at me for? I didn't make the hole.
I used it.
Yeah, you used it. Kathy's like, I swim in it. Like, yeah, both days. You ever make a decision, then you realize it's not the right one, but then you have to like swim in the pool just so you can say I made the right decision? I'm not saying she did that, but I just like to mention that sometimes people do that. So your house should be a place, a fun place that your kids actually want to be at. It shouldn't be the cosmic no home. Come to the cosmic no home and hear what all the things you shouldn't be doing. No, it should be a fun place, right?
Yes.
Yes.
One of the things that I don't... should I tell this? Should I tell a story?
It's streaming.
I'll tone it down.
Okay. No, you can tell it.
Oh, okay. I need to be fixed.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix you. I think you have one ear that's lower than the other. Maybe that's
or my earring or something. So one of the things, Brian will like this story. One of the things that Chris was known for was gathering a bunch of guys together during like a football game or a basketball game. We had bunches of people over all the time, especially a lot of kids. And then all of a sudden, one of the guys would say, "So, Chris, talk to us about, that."
And so then we would have sex talks at halftime. And it got to be, the guys got, in their teenage years, the guys would come over to my house, we'd watch football, and then we'd talk about sex at halftime. And Kathy would feed us nachos, and we'd talk about sex.
What could be better than, never mind.
Yeah. Nachos and a sex talk. I mean, hello. One of the things we really believe in fact, it kind of led us start the organization More Revolution and write the More Revolution book, is we actually feel like that our houses, our homes need to be the place where kids learn about sexuality. We need to have homes where we teach healthy sexuality and where we demonstrate affection to one another so that when our kids leave our homes, when they grow up and leave our homes, they actually don't just get to talk, they actually see a healthy sexual culture. Because how many understand that religion shames sex, the world perverts it, but the kingdom celebrates it in the context of marriage? And there's a principle called the principle of first mention that says the first person to teach you about a subject, that subject becomes the foundation in which you will view that subject whenever it's brought up again. So, for example, if little Johnny goes to school and his classmates teach him about sexuality, and then at 15 or 16, you teach him about sexuality, he will measure what you say, but by what he heard first. So it's really important in the life of a child that we actually have a healthy sexual culture where sex is not shamed. Everybody say hello. Sex is not shamed. And where they hear about sexuality from us first, because, the school system has kind of taken over sex education, and we complain about it a lot as Christians, but most of that happened because it wasn't taught at home. And so I think one of the most important things we can do is teach our kids about sexuality. In fact, it's better to do it too soon than it is to do it too late. Because if you happen to do it a little too soon, there might be some, giggling and maybe a little bit red face. But how many understand that from that day on, everything else they learn about that subject will be measured by what you taught them? And I actually believe because moms and dads are supposed to lay virtuous foundations in their children's life, that principle is actually a kingdom principle that God actually invested and created us to actually learn from our parents and then measure everything else from those views. So we tried to make sexuality just be something that didn't have shame on it, that we laughed about it, we joked about it, we talked about it around the dinner table, and the kids, we often joked about it. And so we didn't just have a talk, we actually had a healthy sexual culture. And we really want to encourage you to do the same. It's amazing, we laugh about it now, but it's amazing how many young men learned about their sexuality at our house at halftime in football or halftime at basketball game. And we just had a lot of fun with, some kids didn't have a dad. Some of the guys, their mom tried to teach them because they were single mom homes. And some dads just didn't know exactly how to talk to their kids. So, by the way, a little advertisement. If you want to get on our website, moralrevolution.com, there's all kinds of tools to teach your kids about sexuality in that, and actually walk you through exactly what do I say if you're nervous about that. Okay, another thing you learned.
Another thing that I learned was find ways of making things work instead of complaining about what isn't working. For instance, and that can be a really tough one. Like when we were raising kids, we had no money. I mean, no money at all. There's times where you had a little bit more than others, but basically there was no money. And so instead of complaining about the situation that I was in, I tried to find the good in the difficult seasons of life. And so I can remember taking my grocery money because, I had $200 a month for groceries. That included, at that time, feeding 4 of us, plus our 2 dogs. And $200 a month, that's not very much for groceries, but it was...
The dogs got skinny in the winter.
Oh. But that was the only extra money that I even had to be able to, finagle or stretch and do things with. And so, I get creative, like making a game out of something that's difficult, like how far can I make this stretch today? Or like becoming good at menu planning, like what is a main dish today can become a side dish tomorrow, or a side dish today can become a main dish added to something.
You used to do 30-day menus, right?
I did.
When money was tight.
I did. I would plan. In fact, I would get big cuts of meat and I'd cut them down. I'd bag them up and I'd label them 1, 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. And then I had everything already pre-planned. Actually, it's a really fun thing to do. And I think that's starting to kind of come back today. There's all kinds of new things that people are doing with meal planning and crock pot cooking.
But the idea is to collaborate instead of complain.
It is, and it's just really easy to complain about what you don't have instead of be thankful for what you do have. And so we just need to make sure that as moms, we are focusing on the positive and not the negative that could happen.
A couple of things about that. Our children learn from experience. So saving our kids from the bad experiences, the tough times, that I want to say, like, that's a real mistake. It's really important that when we walk through hard things, obviously there are things the kids can't know. I understand that. But that they actually walk through it with us, because how many understand, I remember some of what you told me, I remember more of what you showed me, and I remember every time the way you made me feel. So when we walk through tough times, it's important that the kids actually are exposed to those tough times so that it's part of their training. I think as parents, because we all have that protective thing, we're like, we don't want little Johnny and little Mary, we don't want them to feel the pain. But the challenge is when they get 18, 19, 20, they've never saw their parents go through anything hard. Mm-hmm. They never walked through financial problems or maybe even a relational conflict that we have. So they never saw it. They never saw us demonstrate how to walk through tough times. And I like to say that, tough times, it either bonds you or it breaks your marriages. Tough times, we've done lots of marriage counseling. Tough times either make your marriage better, you collaborate, you work together to get through this problem, or you blame one another and it becomes a point of division. So, I remember the story. I've told it a few times, and I think it's in my book that is coming out soon. I remember coming home. We were going through a really hard time. Winters, because we were in business in Weaverville. Think about it, Weaverville. It just sounds cold in the winter, doesn't it? And so winters were really, really tough for our business. Our business would, it would be about half. We'd do about half the amount of business we do on a normal day in the winter. And we try to keep all of our employees, because otherwise you're looking for employees in the summer. So the 3 or 4 months of winter were really, really tough for us. And I remember coming home. I'd average probably about 6:30 coming home at night. Come home 6:30 most nights. And one night I came home. I got done around 5:15. And I just thought, I'm just going to go home. So I go home. It's a winter night. And already almost dark. It had been snowing all day. I come up the hill, and instead of the lights being on in our house that was dark, I started to I wonder where everybody's at. And Kathy's car I hadn't put chains on it, so I'm a little concerned about her driving in the snow with all the kids. And our kids were really little. I come up the top of the hill up to where our house is, and I see her car there. So the car's there, it's dark, all the lights are off in the house. I'm starting to panic, wonder what happened, something's wrong. Get out of the car, I run to the deck, I open the front door, my heart's pounding, and I see 3 little tents in the room. And I open, and a lantern and the wood stove burning in the background. It's like, I'll be home for Christmas. It's like that. I open the door, and I'm like, what is going on? And I say, what's going on? And they go, hi, Daddy. And each one of them poke their head out of their little tent. I said, what are you doing? He said, we're playing camping. We're playing camping. And Kathy comes running out of the kitchen, and she's like, what are you doing home so early? You're not supposed to be home till 6:30. It's only 5:15. What are you doing home? And I'm like, what are you doing? What's happened? Where's the electricity? She, what? You weren't supposed to, why didn't you call? Tell me. So she's all, nervous and trying, and so she walks past me onto the deck, and I'm following her. I say, what's going on? She opens the electric panel, flips the main switch on, all the electricity comes on. I said, what is going on? Stop and talk to me. She said, well, things have been really tight, and I know you're working extra hours and really trying, and I just wanted to help too, and so I've been turning the electricity off in the morning when you leave, and I turn it on an hour before you come home. And I said, how long have you been doing that? She said, about 4 months. There's just something about a family that works together in hard times. My kids learn how to do life from their little tents, from watching their mama not complain, but do what's necessary to get through a hard time.
It was really awesome. One morning, the girls come downstairs and they're holding these paper bags, and they say, here, Mommy, we want to give these to you. What's inside? I'm thinking it's a little present. And I open it up, and it's all these pennies and nickels and dimes. They had taken their piggy banks, and they had emptied them into this bag, and they were wanting to help because they knew that we were going through a really hard time. And they were so excited. I'm like, girls, I don't want to take your money. No, Mommy, you have to. We're helping. And it's just the things that you instill at such an early age in your kids it'll last with them forever. I've heard, and I'm probably not going to get this completely right, but I think by the time a child is like age 5 or 6, they've learned the basic things that they need to know about life, about life skills, or
their core
their core values. And so when we're able to, touch our children at such a young age, it stays with them forever, and it shapes them, and it molds them, and points them in the right direction. And our kids are so generous now, and they're
and it's in those years of watching their mom walk through tough times that was actually instilling in them, hey, when things get tough, tough people rise to the occasion. We arise and shine in dark times. We don't run from dark times. Great leaders don't run from dark times. We run into dark times and we help. And they learned that not from their dad. They learned it from their mom. Talk to them about what you learned about consistency. That's a great story you told them first service.
Oh, consistency and discipline. It seems like everybody has the challenging child to have to deal with. I mean, there's ones that are just really easy to discipline. You can just look at them and they'll cry. Or you can just look at them and they're like, I'm sorry. And then there's the other one.
The little devils.
Oh.
I said little, I was...
Sorry. Anyway, we had one of those other children, and she was 2 at the time, and Jamie was 3, and Shannon did something. I don't even remember what it was. I think she'd hit her sister or something. So, trying to teach them manners and stuff. I said, Shannon, you need to tell Jamie you're sorry. And she just looked at me, and I said, Shannon, you need to tell Jamie you're sorry. And she just looked at her, and I said, Shannon, you need to tell your sister you're sorry, else you're going to get in trouble. And she just kind of stuck her lip out like, and she just looked at me. So now I'm put in this pickle. I'm put in this predicament. My 2-year-old daughter is making me do something or not do something. So I thought, okay, I've already told her she's going to be in trouble if she does not tell her sister she's sorry. So therefore, since I walked into this and opened this door, I needed to follow through with what I said. Well, you would think within like 20 minutes it would all be over. It wasn't. It was still going at 6:30 at night. I was in tears. She was in tears. I didn't know what to do with her anymore, and I put her upstairs in her room. I think she was actually still in a crib, for some reason. We didn't have an extra bed for her, so I think she was still in her crib. And I am fried. I am just frazzled, and I don't know what to do. And I keep thinking...
It's so cool to think of someone that's this peaceful, angry. It just does my heart good. I don't know what it is. Just watching somebody that's normal, peaceful, just totally screwed up, it just makes me feel so good.
And I so wanted to stop, just to stop that whole discipline process. But I thought, I started this, I cannot stop. I could have chosen in the beginning not to say you're going to get in trouble, and then I could have stopped. But since I started this process, I needed to go forward. So it was, Chris walked through the door. And
at 6:30 at night?
At 6:30 at night. And as soon as he walked through the door, I was like a wild animal that got caged up, and the door just finally opened. I was out of there, and I remember looking.
She goes, I'm going. Goodbye.
I remember saying as I was passing him,
forever?
She is all yours.
Yeah.
So I'm running down the stairs. I jump in the car. I start it. I drive down the road, and I'm thinking, what in the heck are you doing? And at that point, I didn't care. I just needed to get out of there. And I'm bawling the whole way, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. What did I just do? I just left her with him.
It's all right. We had duct tape back then. Only didn't come in multiple colors, only silver, but it was still nice.
So about 45 minutes later, I'm coming back to the house, and I'm walking in the house, hoping that everything is like calm and peaceful. And next thing I know, Chris is running down the stairs, and he's like, ah! I guess the situation is still the same, honey. So we're sitting on the couch, and we just don't know what to do. It's like, what do you do when you've done everything that you can do? And so finally, I hear this little, and I look upstairs on our loft, and there's Shannon, and she's holding on to the little bars. Looks like she's in jail. and she's like, her little lip is quivering, and she's like, hi, 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 hi. She's hyperventilating. She can't even get it out. Hi, sorry, Mommy. I'm sorry, Mommy. And I'm just bawling, thinking, Shannon, why didn't you say that like 15 hours ago? But you know, there was, moms, I feel for you. I so understand and I so feel for you. But when you start something, you have to finish. You have to finish. And those people, especially those that are single moms that are trying to do this themselves, you have no break. You have nobody to come next to you at 6:30 at night saying, honey, I'll take over from here. So I just want to encourage.
I don't ever remember saying that, but thank you. Maybe that's the way the Lord's retelling the story.
Oh, you know what? I'll tell you a funny story.
Oh,
The first time I ever left Jamie with him, she was like 9 months old. He had never changed a diaper. And in fairness to him, we never used Pampers or anything. We always used cloth diapers with the pins. But he never.
That's the reason.
No,
it was very complicated, and I couldn't figure it out.
Wasn't the reason.
Oh, wait, I got to tell him this part.
I'm not finished.
The first time you left her for 1 hour, when she was like about 4 months old, she goes, I'm going to the store. I'll be back. I just changed her. I'm like, how long are you going to be gone? I'll be gone 1 hour. She's sleeping. She walks out the door, and about 15 minutes goes by, and she poops everywhere. Everywhere. And I'm a brand new dad. I didn't know what to do, so I picked her up. I took her to the next door neighbor.
He didn't even know the
a Mexican
next door
family.
neighbor.
I've never met him before.
He didn't know them.
But I know Mexican mothers, they know everything about kids. I knocked on the door and said, hi, I'm your next door neighbor. My wife just left my baby with me. I have no idea what to do. She's like, oh, thank you, bring her in. He changed her for me, and she did that probably 4 or 5 times while we were living there. This is like not how to father.
It gets worse. So then I'm getting ready to go to like a, woman's meeting or something. She's like 9 months old at the time. She's already walking. She started walking really early. She's sitting up in a high chair. And I find out, he snuck it in. I find out he bought 2 different half-gallon ice creams, a chocolate and a vanilla. And he bought black licorice. And he bought something else because he didn't know what she would like while he was babysitting her. I come home, he's sitting in the family room watching TV. Jamie is passed out in her ice cream bowl with her head on the side, black licorice everywhere all over her mouth, and ice cream on the side of her face.
I don't remember that. So what would you like to tell dads? You like to say to dads what? On Mother's Day, Dad, you need to...
You need to be there and be involved without bringing them 2 different kinds of ice cream and black licorice. Don't do that. No, really, really seriously. Dads, when you punch out from work, you may be working from 9 to 5 and you may punch out that time card and come home. But as soon as you open that front door, you're punching in to your second job. And your job doesn't end until the lights go out.
I remember a dad was changing a diaper and somebody walked by and said, oh, you got babysitting duty. And the wife said, no, that's their dad. It's not a babysitter, that's their dad.
Yeah.
Nobody told me that. In innocence, I sinned. Moving on.
No, really, but dads really, moms, they need help, you know? And I think that was my biggest mistake was I didn't tell Chris I need help. I thought I was the superwoman that could do everything.
You were.
No, I needed help, and I should have told you.
I liked when you didn't communicate. Anyway.
But then what about the single moms that don't have, a dad where somebody's...
What would you say to them?
I would say, you know what, I'm speaking to everybody else that's not a parent right now or is a parent that maybe your kids are up and grown and gone. Jump in there, help somebody. If you know a young mom, if you know a mom that has young kids, she needs your help. She really does. Make yourself available to her, even if it's only an hour to help out, to do something, because just an hour break will help reset her sanity. It'll totally help reset her sanity. And each of us can, do something for somebody, even if it's only a short amount of time. A lot of times we think, I don't have all day, so we just do nothing. Instead of saying, well, I have 15 minutes, or I have a half hour, or I have an hour. Let me just hold your baby, or let me just do something while you go to the bathroom by yourself. I mean, that could literally be a big deal.
That would be a big deal.
No, you haven't been a mom. It is a big deal. See, moms, how many of you to go to the bathroom by yourself, is that a big deal? It's a big deal.
I bet it would be.
I can remember.
It takes a village
to raise a child. It does.
I love that.
It does.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I can remember sometimes getting so overwhelmed by what I thought my day was going to be. Any moms ever get that way? It's like the same, what's going to happen. And so I was getting ready to get up, and the Lord said, I want to have a conversation with you. So I just let the Lord talk to me, and he said, you know how you tend to get kind of frazzled when the kids get up in the morning and things aren't going right? And I said, well, when things go wrong over and over and over, yeah, I do kind of get frazzled. He said, I'm going to teach you on what you're going to do. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be pretty good. So the Lord just went through things that would happen day after day, like Shannon, when she was 2, she decided that she was going to be able to pour her own milk into the cereal bowl. Almost every single morning she thought she could do it. And almost every single morning the milk ended up on the floor. And every single morning I was like, it's like, Shannon, I told you not to do that. Instead of saying, let me help you. And so the Lord said, you know what? In the morning, Shannon's going to try and pour the milk into the cereal bowl, and it's probably going to go on the floor. But instead of getting irritated and upset, you're just going to take a rag. I mean, he went through step by step by step. You're going to take a rag, you're going to get it wet, you're just going to kneel down with her, and you're going to teach her how to clean up after her messes. And then you're going to hug her and let her know that she did a really good job. At the same time, I was doing all the accounting for our businesses, and we had 4 businesses at the time, and I was doing it at home. And the Lord said, when you get to the place where your books just won't balance and you're so frustrated and the kids are saying, Mommy, can we go and play? And you get angry, instead of saying, oh, sure, you're like, I need to fix this. I need to find my problem. I need to find my mistake. He said, you're just going to stop. You're going to put your pencil down. You're going to take the kids and you're going to go on a walk. Or you're going to go out and throw balls with the dogs. And then when you come back in and you're all relaxed, you're going to find your problem. And he went through, just situation after situation after situation with me. And, you'd think that's really, kind of not a very big thing. But I tell you what, the next morning when I woke up and Shannon was trying to pour the milk into her cereal bowl and it spilt all over the floor, I laughed in the devil's face. I laughed in the face of the devil because I said, I know what to do now. And it was just my whole mindset. It was just changing your mindset from looking at the negative to looking at the positive. You only have one chance at this. You only have one shot at this. And we want to do it right. And no matter what's happening in your world around you, your kids are your most important thing. And the job as a mom is a thing that you've been blessed with. It's the gift that you've been given. Every single child that's been given to you is a gift from God. And God has entrusted you to raise up that child at the way they should go.
That's beautiful. You talked about having a, yeah, that's beautiful. I just don't want to miss this practical point because we talked yesterday about doing this together. You talked about having a mom team because a lot of single parents and a lot of even just times like we were in, there's not money for babysitters, and so in this whole idea of moms needing a break, you had a mom team, about 5 or 6 of you, I think, kind of made a covenant together, right?
Yeah, well, we had no money to pay babysitters, but we did have resources of one another. And so we would take turns of having each other's kids over the house and making a fun play day out of it. And so it doesn't cost any money to do that, and it gives the other moms a break. So I just encourage you to, find some other moms that are in the same situation that you are in, or somebody else that would want to jump in to do that for you. And just, get some breaks, because it's really important as a mom that you guys get a break. And it's important for you to be able to look forward to something. So if it's like on the same day, it's really important. Chris was really awesome at this. We had We had women's meetings. I can't remember now. I don't know if they were once a week. I think they were once a month. We would have a women's gathering. And I can remember Chris watching all the kids in our house by himself. And at the time...
Without drugs. It's a miracle.
At the time, the kids were little. I think Brian was about 2. And I'll never forget the time I come home and Brian had, I think Eric was in our coat room, in our coat closet. They were playing hide and go seek. It was pretty chaotic in there, but he was watching them. And Eric was in the coat closet and Brian was standing right in front of the closet. And I'll never forget this. As soon as I walked through the door, the kids heard me, and Eric came flying out of that coat closet, opened the door and slammed right into Brian's head. And Brian went flying backwards. And Brian always had he had his finger in his mouth all the time. He sucked his thumb, and he always had a little blankie.
Woo-hoo! And he never cried.
He never cried. Eric hit him so hard, he went flying and he landed on his butt, and he just put his finger in his mouth and his blanket up by his thing. But Chris was so good. He took all of them, and he would try to give us a break.
And Brian did a mural on the girls' bedroom wall with crayon.
That was during revival group. I go upstairs and I'm like, I can't believe it. There is writing with crayon.
And he signed it.
All
probably reverse the money now that you're
wall.
kind of famous. We weren't thinking that at the time, though. We painted over like 18 times, and crayon came through.
Who did this? Of course, none of them are saying anything until I look at the end, very end. Brian.
Yeah. So we have a lot of times, one of the things that is important is that kids get to see how you solve conflicts between the two of you. Now, I remember this one time in particular. We weren't yeller and screamers. I'm not saying we've never raised our voice. Of course we did, but that wasn't our home. I grew up in a home that yelled and screamed, so we're like, I don't want to do that. But I remember one time we were in a conflict in the kitchen, and one of our sons was sitting having breakfast, I believe, and I just got really rude to Kathy. And about an hour later, I went in the room and said, "I'm really sorry. You didn't deserve that. Would you forgive me?" "Yeah, I'll forgive you." Went to bed that night, and the Lord said, "You didn't ask your son to forgive you. And if he doesn't see you if he doesn't see you cleaning up your mess with your wife, he's going to think it's okay to treat a woman like that." So the next morning, I got all the kids together. I think they were all teenagers at the time. Mm-hmm. And I got them together in front room. "Hey, before you go to school, I want to talk to you a few minutes." "Oh no, Dad's got a new message. Uh-oh, what's he got it now?" So I got them all on the couch. I still remember them. They're like, "How long is this going to take?" So I said, and I brought Kathy and I said, "Yesterday I was rude to your mother. And I asked her to forgive me, and you forgave me, right? She's like, yes, I did. And I said, so I'd like you to forgive me. Would you forgive me for being rude to your mother? Like, yep, we're done. All right, we done? Yeah, all right, yeah, we're done. That evening, I think it was that evening or the next evening, one of my sons came in and I was in the back room, and I heard him being rude to his mom. So I came out of the bathroom and I said, hey, look at me. You don't treat my wife with disrespect. You understand me? He said, you did yesterday. I said, yeah, but you forgave me. And when you forgave me, forgiveness restores the standard so that you no longer can use that against me because you forgave it. He goes, whatever. Sorry, Mom. I don't think he knew this big spiritual. But how many understand that if you don't, two things. One is this, is that your kids need to watch you clean up messes. They need to know you have conflicts, and they need to see how do passionate people clean up their messes, and how do they get restored so that they're not, how many understand when you ask for forgiveness, you can no longer use that thing anymore in a dialogue, right? You can't say, you did that 3 times last week if you forgave me for the last 2 times, because forgiveness restores the standard. And by the way, if you don't ask God to forgive you, and if you don't receive forgiveness, you can't lead your children past your worst day.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's say that you were immoral in high school or whatever, and now you have high school kids, and you watch them kind of starting to dabble in the immorality. How many understand you feel like you're a hypocrite trying to address that if you haven't realized that when you asked Jesus to forgive you, it restored you, how many know, repentance, restored to the pinnacle. You're restored as if you had never fallen before. And what I'm getting at is this, your worst day can't be the lowest place, it can't be the high place that you correct your children from. And so we taught our kids that forgiveness restores a standard, and that when you forgive, if you forgave mom and dad, you can no longer use that in a conversation again against us. So that's a good word.
It's really good.
Independence, dependence. Kids, when kids are growing up, they move from, how many know, from dependent, like they can't live without you, right? We just talked about the diaper situation. How many understand if you don't change their diapers, they're going to drown and ain't going to be in the sea of love? So, and they need to be fed, right? You understand where I'm going? I'm saying when kids are little, they're in dependent mode. But something happens when they move from dependence. How many know it kind of goes like this. They move from dependence to independence to interdependence. When they move from dependence to independence, how many understand the way you father and mother them needs to change? Because this is the season where God is teaching them how to actually be people, how to actually do it themselves. And God doesn't have any grandkids. He only has kids.
Yeah.
So sometimes in our passion to make sure everything goes well in the life of our children, we don't let them have their own, if you will, relationship with God and let them make their own mistakes. And so when in this season of our life, when we were watching our kids grow up, we want our kids to move from dependence to independence to interdependence, and we'd like to see them get that interdependent piece before they leave the home. But the goal of raising children is that when they get 18, 19, 20, that they have already made most of the decisions for their life for a couple, 3 or 4 years. So in other words, the last couple of years of fathering and mothering is more like a life coach. Like they're making the decisions, you're giving them a chance to take risks. You're not saving them every time they need to be saved. And they're making mistakes while they have a coach that's there with them. Are you with me? I even like, and I understand this doesn't work for all kids, but I even like kids to have dating relationships before they leave the home, because I want them to understand what it's like to be betrayed or to have a broken heart. And I want to be with them and walking through what's it like to have a romantic relationship. And I don't want that to happen when they're, 8, 19, 20, and then mom and dad aren't there to help them walk through. And I understand some kids aren't mature enough for that, but I'm just giving you examples. Like, can we not protect our children, be like the helicopter dad and mom? Mm-hmm. And so we went through a season when we were working with our kids, and we were learning some things. And one of the things we did is like, okay, how are we going to let them make decisions about their life? And one of the things we did, we said, okay, We don't want them, we had three core values. We don't want them pregnant, we don't want them dead, and we don't want them on drugs. So Bill and Benny taught us, have a few rules, but enforce them like the 10 Commandments. So we don't have lots of rules, we just had a few rules. And so we started doing things like when our kids got to be teenagers, there was no curfew, like you could stay up all night if you want. But with authority comes responsibility. So if you stay up all night, then you have to get up on time to catch the bus in the morning, and there are no rides. Key is there are no rides.
So this one morning,
here we go. Miss Mercy.
One of our sons gets up, and he had been up all night. In fact, I woke up a couple times, and he was still on the couch watching TV.
Well, yeah, that night.
Yeah, he was watching TV, and I'm thinking, this is not going to be pretty in the morning, and I'm already preparing myself. So the alarm goes off, and he hits it, and the alarm goes off again, and he hits it, and he's now really late, and I'm thinking, okay, this is like this is torture for me because I am Miss Mercy, but I'm trying to be, that tough mom. So Dad comes down the stairs, and I won't say which one of the boys did that.
Jay's yelling, it wasn't me.
So Jason's older brother, Gene comes running down the stairs. Mom, I need you to take me to school. And before I could say anything, Chris said,
your mother's tired and she'll be sleeping in today.
And I'm thinking, oh, this is killing me. And he goes, no, Mom, I'm late. The bus already came, and I'm late. I can't be late to school, and
I said,
I need a ride. And you said,
sounds like you have a problem. I'm not sure what you're going to do about it. But I know what we're not doing.
Oh, man, as a mom, that was the hardest thing for me, to bite my tongue and not to say, jump in the car, I'll run you up to school. But I looked over at Chris.
And I was doing the mean look. Like, do not do this. So he was like, you mean Mom's not going to take me to school? No, Mom's sleeping in today. Okay, can you take me to school? No, I'm very busy. Well, what do you expect me to do? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. Did you miss the bus? Yes, I did. Oh, you run track, don't you? Yes. Oh. Do you want a suggestion? Yes. Why don't you try practicing? Like, you can run from here to school. That's 3 miles. Oh, wow. That would be a lot of practice. So finally he's like, you're not gonna help me. I'm helping you, son, you just don't know it yet. So finally about 15 minutes goes by, he slams the door, he takes off walking, I take off to work, I pass him.
It gets worse.
I roll down the window, I beep. I love you. I love you. Have a good day at school.
But he always
got up after that.
Got up after that.
Never missed the bus after that.
That was. We only have like 2 minutes left, but that was really hard for me. I'm like Miss Mercy, and Chris isn't, and so that was really difficult in especially the older years, I think, of our kids and making decisions, and me trying to undo what he was trying to do. We adopted our oldest son when he was 15, so it wasn't like getting him when he was a baby or really young. So with a 15-year-old comes a lot of things that they've learned that they needed to unlearn, and things that they didn't learn that they needed to learn. And the first year that he was with us, it was like we got all our kids together saying, okay, with Gene, for this first year, it's going to be grace extended. Because
so Gene didn't have to keep the rules. We got the kids together before we took him in and said, do you guys all want a new brother? And they said, yes. We said, okay, Gene's coming out of this situation. So Gene's going to have 1 year where he doesn't have to keep all the rules. He only has to keep some of the rules. But you still have to keep all the rules. Like, that's our agreement if we bring Gene in. They're like, that's good.
But then, year 2 came around, and then it was time for Chris to teach him how to become a man and the things that he needed to learn that he should have learned and that our other kids learned years prior, but he just had never learned those things. And so that was, I think if Chris and I had ever had conflict, that's where our conflict came, was being in agreement on what we were going to do and how we were going to discipline and the standards we were going to hold to.
And what we learned from Bill Johnson after a fight, Bill said, you guys need to be on the same page. Like whatever you do, a house divided will fall. Mm-hmm. So you make a decision together about how you're going to deal with each one of these situations, and you can compromise so that you come to an agreement, but then you both hold the standard so that they don't play, your kids don't play the parents against one another. And you know what happens is the more Kathy would extend mercy, the more strict I would get, and that's just a bad plan. So we still remember that day. We've actually talked about it several times. When we went home, we made an agreement, talked through the situations. There was 4 or 5 different ones where we disagreed on where, the standard that he would have to adhere to. We made a decision and we collaborated. And I remember the first time Jean walked in the room and we were collaborating. It was obvious it was time to grow up. Mm-hmm. So it's great. Well, we just want to pray for you all. Why don't you stand? I'm going to have Kathy pray for you this morning. And we want to just bless motherhood. But how many know we need to bless fathers too? Hello. So why don't you just do that?
Father, I just thank you for every mom that's in this room. Lord, I thank you for every natural mom and every spiritual mom. Father, so that should encompass everybody that's here. And Lord, we just pray your blessing on each and every single person, Lord. Father, that you would give them the heart, you give them direction, you give them guidance, you give them perseverance. Father, especially for these new moms, Lord, perseverance, that you give them favor. And Lord, just knowing that they are raising up world changers, that what they're doing is making a difference, that their responsibility is great, and it's something that you've entrusted to each one of them. So Lord, I thank you for just honoring in the honor of women this morning. And we say thank you to each mom that's here. Amen.
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 God bless you. Have a great Mother's Day.